Welcome to another Trenny and C episode. I am Trenny, and beside me, my lovely Vanna here is C.
So today we have the unique Orphan Barrel Barterhouse Bourbon to review.
Trenny and C, drinking whiskey, describing all the flavors for you and me. Irish, Scotch, bourbon, and rye. If they like a bottle, they'll tell you why.
This is a limited release.
20-year-old.
20-year-old.
Yep.
Limited release, limited to 55,000 bottles, which doesn't sound like it's limited, but yeah, that's actually not a lot.
In the world of whiskey, that's not very many.
So this is the Orphan Barrel brand through Diageo, who, if you know bourbon and whiskey, they are pretty big.
They basically own everything.
It's big enough. So this particular whiskey is Diageo owns some of the remaining stock of many out-of-business bourbon companies, and basically what they've done is come together to splash a whole bunch of those together and create the Barterhouse brand.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the plan is to release several different varieties through the Orphan Barrel label.
Yeah, so the Orphan Barrel is the distillery company name, and the Barterhouse is the
product.
The style.
So one unique thing is the 20-year-old. As we've mentioned in other videos before, 20 years old would be the age of the youngest whiskey that would be in this bottle. So
Exactly.
that is pretty unique, considering that a lot of whiskey is getting away from the age statement. So that's pretty cool. But you also you're paying for it.
Exactly, but one thing I got to say is unique specifically about this in general is the fact that a lot of bourbons specifically don't actually have age statements on them most of the time. Yes, like Knob Creek, I think is 8 years, and it says it, and there's certain ones that are, but for the most part, there's no age statement. So having that on this is kind of, at least you know the reason you're paying the top dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today we have bottle number. Where are we?
3,100.
3,100, and this is a 45.1% bottled at 45.1%.
Yep.
Bottled in Tullahoma, Tennessee. So it's a Kentucky bourbon bottled in Tennessee. So obviously the bourbon itself was made in Kentucky.
Yeah, probably stored there as well.
Bottled in Tennessee. So to clarify some of the bourbon rules, just so everyone knows, bourbon doesn't have to be made and bottled in Kentucky to be called bourbon. It just has to be made in the U.S. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of talking.
Let's pour a glass. Go for it. We do the honors.
While we're doing this, we should let everyone know we'll be doing our usual scale.
So the compass scale consists of color, nose, taste, finish, and viscosity. So let's start right off the bat with the color here. This is just kind of opinion, for being a 20-year-old whiskey, you would think that it would be quite a bit darker in color. So that could mean maybe it wasn't, the barrels weren't alligator charred, as they call it, when it's got that kind of alligator skin look to the inside of the barrel.
I went straight to drinking.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
I stopped myself.
You can enjoy it. You can enjoy it. Anyway, so the color is, it's kind of golden,
Copper.
Copper. It's copper.
It's a copper.
It's a copper kind of color. So amber +2, maybe not even 2, +1. Anyway, so on the nose, I instantly get a lot of spices. So like nutmeg and cinnamon and then some vanilla notes.
I'm getting hit with a lot of fruit,
Yeah.
like cherry specifically.
Mm-hmm.
It actually kind of reminds me of the smell of Maker's Mark a bit.
Okay. Cherry cola. You
Yeah.
think, a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
No.
No, not no.
I also kind of actually get, speaking of fruit forward, it does have like this kind of caramel apple nose to it. And then this is just kind of a note on the side that once this glass was
Side
finished,
note.
a side note, a note on the side, however you want to say it. So a side note is when the glass is finished and it's been sitting for a while, I smelled it again and I get a tobacco kind of smell. So don't really smell that in the
Yeah, it's more fruit up front and then
fruit and
interesting
spices and
afterwards.
baked apple pie on a windowsill
Beautiful.
on a summer's day. No?
Sure.
Okay, so let's move on to taste.
Delicious.
It's delicious. It's instantly, to me, it's instantly like it's a drier whiskey to me. So it's a dry arrival.
It's popping with more fruit again. Like for me, I'm getting like a fig or like an apricot kind of a flavor out of it.
Yep. Also the nutmeg and clove, honey, some brown sugar, like the lighter style brown sugar. I think it's called Demerara or something. Yeah.
And I'm tasting that I'm tasting the spice a little bit more on the finish myself.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you're saying.
It's got a
So I'm catching that at the end there.
little bit of a honey lemon zest kind of flavor to it.
For me, the taste is pretty consistent throughout, though.
Mhm.
Like it's not, the finish isn't a lot different than, the beginning of the taste there. But
Yeah. I was gonna say one of my tasting notes here is so it's a dry arrival, I notice, but it also kind of consistently stays dry on the
Yeah.
finish. It's almost like when you've had a dry red wine and it leaves that on your
Yeah,
tongue. I don't know if that's. I'm sure if you're drinking red wine, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
oh, I do.
But and it's not unpleasant.
Mm-mm.
It's nice because it's got that spice, those spices, and the fruit.
Yeah, it's got good flavor, and that it's 45.1%, but it doesn't really kind of like punch you with that.
No.
You don't get hit hard with the alcohol like you do sometimes
Yeah.
in other less complex bourbons.
So one thing that we haven't really mentioned too much is the fact that when you add water, it opens up your whiskey, and that's like 5 or 6 drops. So sometimes when it's bottled at a higher strength, 45%, it can kick you in the teeth, and you just get that alcohol blast right to the nose and palate. This doesn't really do that. I think the age of it actually mellows out the overall flavor of it, but it's still very complex tasting.
So viscosity, I noticed that it's kind of got thin legs on the glass. Like it's pretty light.
It's light, but it's got that syrupy, dry thing. This is just my personal thing. It's dry, but it still has the sweetnesses. It's just
Yeah.
anyway.
So back to our scale. As you know, we score on our scale in advance, and we do it anonymously. Trenny does his part, I do mine.
Yep.
Then we have a look and combine the scores, come up with the average, and
So I got a 23.66, and C here got a 26.08. So the average score ended up being a 24.87 out of 33.33333. Infinite. Which is a relatively, I'd say there's nothing wrong with that.
That's a pretty good score.
A pretty good score.
I don't know if that score is enough to make the price
Worthwhile.
worth it, but it's definitely in the higher echelon of scores. It's just not. It's not so much dramatically better to make it worth twice as much as other bottles. So.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not going to name names here, but there's a couple others that are actually bottled at a higher strength that cost about $30 less than this bottle.
Yeah.
Granted, we live in a place where we get charged at the yin yang for our alcohol, but so I'm sure if you can get this in the United States or Canada or anywhere, I would still suggest getting it because it's a limited supply and
it's a good. It's
good.
It's unique.
Yeah.
It's a good taste. They're gonna run out, and then it won't be available at some point. So just stick it in your collection and have a sip from time to time. Probably a good idea. You're just not going to stock up on it at that price and have a big inventory sitting in your cupboard.
And as a note on the side, or a side note, I'd just like to say, and this is just a personal opinion thing, so no offense to Orphan Barrel or anything like that, but it's a little gimmicky, the way that they label it. And the way that they label it is, it basically says that they found this barrel way in the back of the rick house, and it was hiding, and they had no idea it was there. And they accidentally
stumbled upon 55,000 bottles.
Yeah, so it's a little bit gimmicky, so you got to kind of take it for what it's worth. But having an age statement and a bottle number, it does show you that there has been some quality and the artisticness has been put into the.
It's all
the
about
product.
The story.
Yeah, but it is the story.
It's a great story.
It's a good story. Anyways, so I think that's it. I'm Trenny.
I'm C, unless that's backwards on
I
the
think
video.
that's right. No, that's right. Anyway,
see you next time.
thanks a lot. Cheers.